In this video, we're going to do a quick walk around tour of Autodesk Inventor 2022. And so you can see I just have my desktop pulled up. We'll click on the Autodesk Inventor icon and then it will load. It usually takes a couple of seconds to fully load. And if it's your first time opening Inventor, you may have a different screen. But then after you open it the first time, this is the screen that you should have um, come up. And so there's a few things we'll talk about on this, and then we'll look at some of the different files. So on your home screen here, um, you'll have a toolbar. You can start new files, open old files. There is projects that you can create and uh, do a project, and it kind of keeps everything organized into that. I don't use it a whole lot. We've I've used it a little bit in the past, and then it's gotten kind of confusing on where things are being saved. And then if you try to uh, work on another project that you're doing, or try to do something outside of that particular project, it gets kind of chaotic in trying to save it. So I don't really mess with the projects a whole lot. There is some samples that you can open. There's tutorials that you can do. There should be a way, and I'll add a video onto it. But there is a tutorial. It's the learning path, and that's what I start my students on. They will go through that learning path, and it's basically kind of teaching them everything about Inventor. Clicking or different tools, different files, things of that nature, and kind of introduces them to Inventor. And like I said, I'll do a separate video on that at a later time. You have your new file or new files that you can access, or you can have some recently accessed documents. You can pin these if there's something that you're consistently working on. You can pin it, and then it will save it up here under the pinned folder, or you can unpin it. But Inventor uses, or I say uses, there's four file types that you can create in Inventor, and they all do different things. We use the main three, which are parts, assemblies, and drawings. We use those every day. Presentation, the fourth file type, is something that it's pretty neat if you're say at an ag mechanic show and you have a display TV set up, and it can show your part, kind of an exploded view, and then it will animate it being put together. I don't use that a whole lot. It is very time consuming to create that presentation, but it is available to you. If you click on new up here at the top corner, it'll open up this tab or the screen on create new files. And so, you can go straight off of your home screen, but there are some various file types for parts, assemblies, drawings. There's the English, which is your standard measurements, inches, and then there's metric, which would be in millimeters. So depending on what you're doing, uh, you might use one or the other. I always just leave it on English, keeps it a little less cluttered. And if you click over it, it will kind of tell you about each of the file types here. So the first file type we'll talk about, and we'll go more in depth in another video on each one of these. But the first one, the most common one, is your standard part file. So parts are objects that you create for what project that you're building. And so it could be, if we're doing a welding project out in the shop, it could be a gusset or, anything along those lines. It could be, it's one particular part that's going into the overall project. And so it's kind of your building blocks for what you're drawing. It's going to be, the individual part that's cut out in the shop. Um, and so that is your standard part, probably the most commonly used file that I use in Inventor. Your other part file is sheet metal. And so sheet metal, just kind of how it sounds, if you're doing something that needs to have tabs or flanges or anything like that, and you're wanting to bend it, say using a brake, a sheet metal brake or press brake, something of that nature, that you're not say cutting and welding a tab onto another piece. You want it to all be out of one piece of metal. You'll use sheet metal, and this is a feature that I didn't really utilize a whole lot until a couple of years ago, and it is a lifesaver if you're doing anything with sheet metal and needing flanges bent. Um, those are your part files. They're pretty similar. Like I said, the sheet metal has some added features to it. Come down to assembly. Um, I don't use mold design, so we won't talk about that. But the other two are standard assembly files and weldments. And standard assembly is going to be you can place a variety of part files that you create or other assemblies that you create. You can put them into an assembly file and create, like I said, a combination of parts and assemblies. So you could have, say a trailer, and you add an axle, and then you can add wheels and tires, and you can add fenders. You can bring all of it into an assembly file and constrain them in a way that creates your uh, final project. Weldments, really, it's kind of a cool feature. We don't use it a whole lot because it's not really necessary for what we're doing to an extent. But weldments, it's an assembly file that will place welds at joints. You can create groove joints or fillet welds. Um, you can put in welding specifications, welding symbols, and that sort of thing. It'll give you some feedback on it. Um, like I said, it's a little bit not necessary for what we're doing, but it is a cool feature you can add where it'll have welds added to your project, and you can see what it looks like. Um, it's something that's like I said, pretty neat. It's not necessarily something that we use all the time, but nonetheless still a cool feature. The last one that we use, the last two files, uh, they're drawing files. So these are going to be your um, blueprints, so to speak, that um, you would take out to the shop. All right, and so um, this is what you're putting your parts that you design, you're putting your assemblies that you create. You will place them into a uh, a drawing file. There's the DWG and then IDW. DWG would be something if you're wanting to go import it into AutoCAD. You would use DWG. if you're just wanting to print them out, say for your show book or to go work in the shop, we use IDW. There's different sizes, um, and um, you know, we'll talk about these all in later videos. But there's different sizes that you can print out full blown plans that are we've done some that are 2 feet by 3 feet. We blow them up, but a lot of times we will just print out on normal printer paper, uh, and then the kids can take them out to the shop and use them. We have it saved, so if it gets um lost or thrown away or whatever, we just print out another one the next time. And this is what my students build their projects off of. So, uh, like I said, those are the main file types. We'll talk about each of the sheet metal and standard IPTs, and then we'll talk about standard assemblies and IDWs in upcoming videos.